Family, Naeem Al-Abeidi here. I hope you're all enjoying your day today. This is going to be an amazing video. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin heading towards 100,000 US dollars in the next 12 months and why that is a possibility based on the Binance US exchange ban, alongside with the fundamentals of what we're seeing in the worldwide economies. If you look at gold, we have just broken all-time highs here in regards to the last year or so. We haven't seen highs this high for gold since August of 2013. So we're going to talk about why we're starting to see some of these asset classes like Bitcoin and gold seeing all-time highs. If you guys know, none of this has been a surprise. If you guys are part of our premium Traders Profit Club Discord group, we posted a Bitcoin signal 10 days ago on the 16th to enter at 8,700. We've already seen a 40% take profit on that. If you guys are not getting our premium signals, we're posting daily crypto and BitMEX signals in our premium group. The link is in the description below. I highly recommend you guys get into that. That's why I haven't been making as much content, but I'm going to start making more and more content as we've just launched our new course as well, which is a part of our premium group for all our premium members. I'll show you guys a little bit of a sneak peek of the course outline. You can see here, if you guys are new to trading cryptocurrencies, stocks, or Forex, this is the place to be. We have a full-on course now out for all our premium members. So the link is in the description below. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what's happening with Bitcoin and where our next targets are. We're also going to be going over the Facebook Libra and the Ripple partnership that recently occurred, and then also look at total cryptocurrency market cap and some fundamentals, and then take questions from our live audience. So first and foremost, as you can see, we have now broken past this major resistance of 13,500, and you can see based on previous market structure, there is no telling where we're going to start headed, as our next target is 16,300, and then from there it's going to be that $19,000 mark. And the reason we're starting to see a lot of this action is because, once again, now people are more familiar with this asset class, people are more comfortable with investing, and we're starting to see more and more institutional interest. As you guys know, in March, Cambridge Analytics issued to $300 billion of managed assets a recommendation to put 30 plus points of investment capital into cryptocurrencies and blockchain. And as these institutions start to go through their compliance and move forward with purchasing Bitcoin, we're going to start to see more and more big volume come, as we initially saw with the $100 million order, which took Bitcoin 20% up and started this bull market. And so right now, I want you guys to realize that what we're seeing is extremely similar to what we saw in 2017. However, we have a lot more of an understanding of this market, and investors are going to be a lot smarter with where they're putting their capital and liquidity. And we're going to talk about where we believe we're going to see some of that. Now, first and foremost, let's first look at this Bitcoin technical analysis, and then we will take some questions from our live audience. I see we have Mike and Chase, Eduardo, John, and JK on. So good to have you guys on. Make sure to like this video if you guys are excited to get more content on a daily basis. And so first and foremost, looking at the Bitcoin USD Bitfinex chart, I want you guys to look at this light blue line here. This is the exponential moving average, the EMA. It's a very good indicator of price momentum and direction. And anytime we're bouncing on top of that, that's an extremely bullish sign. Now, one thing I want you guys to realize is how far away we are from this EMA right now. You can see we're about 53% above the EMA. And in the past, when we've seen that type of exuberance with the EMA, you can see we saw that similarly here in December of 2017. We went about 81% above the EMA before seeing a strong correction to the downside. And so if we were to assume that we were going to see similar action to what we're seeing right now with price action, then we could assume that we're going to see 20 to 30% more gains before we start to see any sort of a correction here with Bitcoin. Now, understand that when you're trading a market like this, especially cryptocurrencies, where if we look at the total cryptocurrency market cap, we are still under that $400 billion mark, and bigger markets like Forex are at $7 trillion, that we're going to see a lot of volatility in this market. And we have issued an altcoin risk signal several weeks weeks ago, we told everyone in our group that altcoins are most likely going to start tanking and bleeding because of Bitcoin's exuberance. And that's exactly what we're seeing if we do pull up any altcoin charts, which is why we're not necessarily going to go into some of these charts today and focus on Bitcoin, Ethereum, the total crypto market cap, as well as gold, because understand that Bitcoin in a fundamental sense is very similar to gold. And in that way, we're going to see similar price action depending on the overall world economy. And as you can see with gold, we broke major resistance and we're starting to head up just like Bitcoin. And if you don't know this already, which we all should know, Bitcoin is the digital version of gold. It's limited in quantity, and everything that has to do with price will always lead back to one thing, and that's supply and demand. And that's why it's extremely important to get your information from the right place. And that's why we're going to go into a little bit more of this technical analysis to talk a little bit about what's happening here. Now, one thing I want to mention is we're not necessarily seeing the amount of volume that we saw here in 2017. However, we are seeing very strong amounts of buy volume with very little sell volume. And what that means is people are realizing that Bitcoin, in my opinion, is an asset class that is fine to hold. It's not an asset class you want to just use on a day-to-day for transactions, but more so a storage of value where you can put money in the in Bitcoin and keep it in Satoshis and just hope and expect the price to go up as more and more people seek to obtain Bitcoin, and the supply stays the same, but the demand increases. We'll continue to see price action heading towards the upside. And so I want you guys to realize that we're going to go through a lot of fundamentals today as well and talk a little bit about what the Binance US ban is going to cause and what possibilities might occur with Bitcoin due to that. Now, understanding the breakout targets we have here, the $16,300 and $19,000 level is the next two targets for us to hit. Now, one thing I do want you guys to realize as well is if we look at this relative strength index, it's RSI indicator, this shows you whether an asset class is overbought or oversold. And we're only going to be staying on the weekly chart today because if we do pull up a daily or a 4-hour, 1 hour, we're not necessarily going to get much info on the overall long-term perspective of where we're heading in regards to targets. But that's why if you guys are part of our Traders Profit Club Discord group, you guys get all of those alerts on the daily. Now, looking at the RSI, I want you to realize that in the initial bull market that we saw, we stayed at these high RSI levels for quite some time. You can see we initially went above that 70 mark, which is where you start to see more and more bullish action. And this is where the asset starts to become overbought. But we stayed in that range for a very long time, all the way from the beginning of that bull market, which occurred here in December of 2017, all the way to the start of 2017. So it was almost a year that we were at these overbought RSI levels before we saw downside. And right now we've just entered that zone, which leads me to assume that we're going to most likely stay at these higher levels and see price action to the upside until we start to see some sort of dump. But with what we're seeing right now, in my opinion, we need to see more and more institutional money come into the market. And one thing I want you guys to watch here is the total cryptocurrency market cap chart here, because what you can start to see is we see a lot more total volume coming into this market. The last thing I do want to mention here with Bitcoin's technical analysis is looking at this MACD. You can see we also have a lot of room to go. So there's no telling where Bitcoin can start heading over the next couple of weeks. But what I will say is it does look very bullish. We're in a bull market right now, and we're most likely to continue to see upside towards this next target of 16,300. And the best way to play this is to trade in and out of the market, set up trailing take profits, set up trailing stop losses, and take your profits. Don't be greedy, because once again, when we do see any sort of a correction, it's going to be a hard one. And so we're going to keep watch of that in our Discord. Once again, we post those daily Bitcoin market updates and stuff, so we'll make sure that you guys have that information. Now, to move on to Ethereum's chart, I want to talk about a potential breakout we may start to see here with Ethereum. So looking at Ethereum's chart, we are now approaching this major resistance where in the past it was an ascending triangle that broke out, and we saw gains with Ethereum of up to 289%. And so understanding that this happened in the past, and we're also in a very bullish structure here, and we're approaching this major resistance here of around $370, we may start to see some of these altcoins break out alongside Bitcoin, just because of the fact that investors are a lot smarter now, and they're going to want to put their liquidity and their capital in bigger coins that have larger volumes. And those are the coins that you'll see like in the top 10, such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Ripple, and some of these other coins. So we're going to focus here on Ethereum, because understanding the fact that we do have this very bullish movement here, we're also now above this EMA, which is also very bullish on the weekly. We may certainly start to see some sort of another breakout here for Ethereum to allow you guys to start getting more of those gains if you guys did miss out already on some of those Bitcoin gains. Now, the other cool thing about what we're seeing here with Ethereum is the fact that if we pull up the RSI, we are just now entering that bullish zone in the weekly. And you can see in the past, anytime we've entered that zone, we've seen a very high amount of exuberance from that initial entry of that zone here past 70. And so we do have that chance to now see a lot more price action here. If you look at the MACD, just like Bitcoin, we have a lot more room to go with these slow and fast lengths. So understanding the technicals here, we're in a bull market. Bitcoin is going to see the majority of the liquidity because people realize it's one of the most limited assets in this market. And then secondly, we may see further breakouts here for other coins like Ethereum, but I don't expect that for every single coin. I'm going to talk exactly about why. If we look at total cryptocurrency market cap right now, you can see Bitcoin is starting to head to these new highs of around 65% dominance in the market. And we're starting to see a lot of these altcoins stay within their zones. But what's most interesting about this chart is if you look at the last selection there where it says others, you can see these are all of the other coins outside of the top 10. We're starting to see a major decline in their dominance, actually all the way down to 15% right now. And that's where we're seeing the most, the biggest differences here right now are Bitcoin rising in dominance and altcoins outside the top 10 lowering in dominance. And so what that means is you want to be specific with where you're putting your capital. And if you do keep it in any of the top 10, understand I would keep allocations small outside of Bitcoin, because once again, Bitcoin is now heading towards these new dominance highs, and it makes sense because once again, Bitcoin is the one asset that's proven itself time and time again, unlike some of these other assets. Now, when we look at Bitcoin confirmed transactions per day, you can also see here with the fundamentals, not only are we back at the 2017 highs, but we're maintaining these levels a lot better than we did back in 2017. And in my opinion, that has to do with the fundamentals of us realizing that we're in a smarter market. More investors are coming in, more institutions are seeing interest in this market, and we're starting to see regulations start to mature. And so I want to take some questions from the live audience and then go into some more technical analysis. But before I do so, I do want to cover this very important article and then go into some gold versus Bitcoin analysis and some correlations that I'm seeing here. Bernard Mahler says, thanks, brother. It's good to be back. Thank you so much. I see we have a ton of amazing people on the live stream. If you guys appreciate these videos, like the video. I'm starting to transition away from the TPC Discord as my main focus to now focusing on the Discord and the YouTube channel for more content for you guys. But if you guys are not part of our premium group already, we just launched our new course 3 days ago. So if you guys join, you now get the full course with over 25 videos to give you guys the best understanding of how to use the TPC community, the platform, the signals to be a profitable trader like our students. If you guys go to results here, you can see we have tons of students making profits. Here's one of our students that says, I read a lot of TA around Bitcoin and not one predicted this except one man. Damn, I appreciate that. Thank you, Gary. I just saw that. He's one of our students. He's doing about 50 to 100% a month right now on his portfolio, which is awesome using our signals. So, anyways, sorry for that. My voice cut off there. But I do want to talk about what's happening with gold and the US dollar and the fundamental side of things. So this article is extremely important here. It says, weakening dollar, Iran sanctions could push Bitcoin and gold to new highs. So if we go into this article, you can see it says the US dollar plunged to a multi-month low against the euro and the Japanese yen earlier on June 25th. Some analysts and traders are viewing Bitcoin's recent rally as some sort of anti-dollar trade. If we were to actually go here to June 25th and look at this daily chart and see what happened to Bitcoin on June 25th when the US dollar hit a low, you can see here June 25th is right here where we saw this major breakout. I'm sorry, this is Ethereum, but this would also correlate here. You can see here, June 25th, this is where we saw the major breakout from that $11,000 level past 13,000, and that broke that major resistance here. Now, what I'm going to be waiting for is that wick here. I'd rather see a body of a candle above this $13,000 or $13,500 range versus seeing just a wick. So the confirmation for us to know whether we're going to start heading towards this $16,000 level, in my opinion, is going to be a daily candle body close above 13,500. So if you guys are writing notes down, that's what I'm looking for to expect Bitcoin to start heading towards those further highs. Because if we see a close on the daily above with the body of the candle above that 13.5 range, then that's going to be a very, very good sign that we're going to start to see momentum upwards, because you can see there's very little resistance that we have to face up to that $16,000 range. And if you guys weren't a part of the bull market, why don't we ask a question here to the audience? If you guys are on the live chat, who here was around in December and January of 2017 and 18? That's a big question, because if you guys remember, during that time, it was a very different market with investors that weren't as knowledgeable as they are today. And instead of us seeing Bitcoin's dominance just go through the roof, what we ended up seeing is, as you can see, that last one right here where it says others, back in November of 2017 towards December, we went from 10% altcoin dominance past the top 10 all the way to around 16% altcoin dominance past the top 10. And so the reason I think a lot of people back in 2017 invested in some of the coins outside of Bitcoin is because they weren't knowledgeable on what was happening in the market. Now that investors are smarter, you can see we're seeing the complete opposite, where those altcoins past the top 10 are dropping significantly in dominance, while the main coins, especially Bitcoin, are rising in dominance. And therefore, in my opinion, for us to continue to pass that $13,500 resistance into that new target of 16,300, it's going to continue to cause altcoins to see major downfall and major bleeding. And that's not a surprise. If you guys were around in December of 2017, and I used to go live every single day, I always told you guys that 90% of these coins are not going to be around 5 to 10 years from now. And it's just like what we saw in 2000 with the dot-com bubble, where the majority of those websites are still not around. We're going to see the same thing happen through this cycle, where a lot of these altcoins are going to disappear, but there are going to be those select few that see major upside. And if you guys are part of our premium group on the Discord, you guys know we're going to keep you guys up to date on that, as we have multiple analysts watching dozens of coins on a daily basis to ensure that you guys have the best information and the best signals possible. So that's what's happening here with Bitcoin. Let's take a couple questions from our live audience before we transition into some other content here. Now, one thing I do want you guys to also realize here is there's two theories that I personally have on Bitcoin before we go into questions. So number one is Bitcoin continuing to rise as people see more value in Bitcoin, allowing a lot of these other altcoins to almost quote unquote die off, right? That, in my opinion, is the most likely scenario. But the other possible scenario here is we'll see a large correction in Bitcoin, where we'll start to consolidate at these higher levels, and what we'll start to see is more liquidity flow into some altcoins, because maybe investors feel as if some of these altcoins have more potential than Bitcoin. But I think based on our last market cycle to the upside, where we saw major exuberance, and what we saw after that when we went through this whole bear market, I think more investors are going to be willing to put their money in Bitcoin than they are in any other coins. And especially with all of the, just the worldwide state and health of the economy, in my opinion, like the U.S. economy, Ray Dalio in his book, he says every 10 to 12 years there's going to be a market correction. And it's already been over, our last correction was 2018, so it's been over 10 years now, and we haven't yet seen a market correction. But in my opinion, that's a very possible scenario coming in to the new year. And so looking at gold, very interesting that we broke these very strong resistance levels. You can see this was a resistance level since 2014. So us breaking this in my opinion, is starting to show that we're seeing a shift in economies. We're seeing a shift in where investors and institutions want to put their liquidity. And we may start to see more and more liquidity come into gold and Bitcoin as a hedge against other world currencies as well as traditional markets. And so that's my opinion. I hope you guys have your own opinion, and I'd love to take some questions here before we wrap up this live stream. And the last thing I want to say is, guys, don't get confused by all of this BS news. I know a lot of people recently saw that just a ton of headlines on Facebook releasing their new coin Libra, or MoneyGram partnering with Ripple. I don't know if you guys realize this, but I talked about those partnerships almost a year ago. All that we're seeing is these companies pumping more money into press and re-releasing headlines from the past. It's complete, it really is complete press manipulation at the end of the day, and you have to watch out for that. You can see we're starting to see Bitcoin's retracement. I really wouldn't be surprised for us to top out at 13.5 just because of the fact that you can see when we saw that major break to 19, the biggest the biggest support was 13.5. And then when we pop back up and drop back, it also acted as another support. And so knowing that this right here, that 13.5 is previous support, it can most likely act as this resistance. And you can see this wick extended quite a bit already, and that could be a sign of a top. And so there may be that possibility for that second scenario to occur where we see Bitcoin top out here, maybe drop back down around that $9,000 to $10,000 range, consolidate a little bit, allowing some of these altcoins to start to see more liquidity, because you look at these altcoins, they're all at their bottom, right? At the end of the day, all of these altcoins are pretty much at a bottom when you look at them in Satoshi value, which is what matters more than USD value. And so if that second scenario does occur and you are a part of our TPC premium group, you guys are in good hands because we are watching all of these altcoins, and that might be the biggest opportunity in the next 2 weeks, which is taking advantage of all these altcoins starting to swing back high, and now you're able to gain more Satoshis trading the altcoins than you are trading just Bitcoin. But once again, what we're looking for is that daily candle body to close above that $13,500 range in order for us to verify that. Alfonso says, major break to 19,000, LOL, you mean 9,000. Very possible. We just went over that scenario, Alfonso. Big A says, hey, Naeem, glad to see you live streaming again. Thank you. Great Day says, back to 2,000 people. Absolutely. Let's see here. Brent says, why do these two websites have such drastic differences regarding market caps? Crypto Compare, ETH, 35 billion. I'm not sure, but that's weird. Mr. T says, do you think retail investors are in this pump? I actually think that the majority of this is still retail investors. I don't believe that we've yet to see institutions come in. I was with Brock Pierce, who actually, he was one of the founders of EOS. He also has been in this sphere for longer than anyone I know. He's a billionaire in the cryptocurrency sphere. And I was with him about a month and a half ago. And if you guys don't remember, when I was with him, he mentioned Cambridge Analytics, who supply all of the reference points for investments to $300 billion in managed assets. For the first time, they said invest in crypto and blockchain. And the thing is, you have to understand with these funds, they don't just have the opportunity to go and buy Bitcoin, right? They have to go through a lot of compliance. They have to go through a lot of paperwork in order to start doing that. And so if that was issued in March, then we might want to give that about a year for us to really see institutional funds coming into this market. But what I'm going to tell you right now is the fundamentals are here. The world is in a crisis right now. We are seeing the US dollar at all-time lows. We're seeing other currencies at all-time lows. We're seeing gold, which we know is an asset that is typically used as a hedge during down market cycles. We're seeing that breaking new highs, and Bitcoin starting to go back to previous highs. In my opinion, this is exactly what we talked about a year ago in our live streams. And I implore you, if you don't believe me, to go to all of our live streams from back in the day. They're all on this YouTube channel, and look at it, and you can hear me preaching every single time. I believe we'll see a market correction very soon in traditional markets, which, according to Ray Dalio, who owns Bridgewater Associates, the largest hedge fund in the world, every 10 to 12 years, there has to be a correction. We haven't seen one yet. It's been over 10 years. And when there is a correction in any traditional market, investors want to put their liquidity as a hedge into another asset class. And for the first time ever, we have Bitcoin as an asset class during a possible recession. In 2008, Bitcoin wasn't around. Here's the other thing about it. Check this out. check this out, Brent. Check this out, Mr. T. Check this out, Pinocchio. Whoever is active on the live stream right now, check this out. Why was Bitcoin created in the first place on the white paper? Why don't we ask that question to the audience, and whoever answers it correct will win a book. I'll send you Principles by Ray Dalio. It's my favorite book about investing and life principles. Why was the Bitcoin white paper created? What was Bitcoin's initial purpose? Whoever can answer that first in the chat will win this book. But when you realize the fact that our market right now is in a crisis, we have currencies in a crisis, Bitcoin is the one option that makes sense in order to store liquidity because it's limited in quantity. And once again, it has demand. There are more and more institutions, more and more companies accepting it. And so nobody got the answer in the live chat. Great Days says freedom. Nobody got the answer yet, so I guess nobody wins the book. But the reason Bitcoin was created in the white paper, and it specifically says it, type in Bitcoin white paper, it was created in 2008 because of the recession. It was an asset class created to store liquidity during the recession of 2008. And so maybe it didn't it didn't fulfill its purpose in 2008. In my opinion, it did, because if you did put money in 2008, guess what? You'd be good now, right? But now it's been able to mature. And as we approach a possible correction in traditional markets, guess what? Its use case is still there. It's used during the recession to store liquidity. Guess what? If we start to see liquidity come into Bitcoin, being only a $400 billion market cap right now with total cryptocurrencies combined, we may see the cryptocurrency market cap head to $1 trillion, $2 trillion, $5 trillion, $10 trillion, and so forth, because once again, it's a worldwide economy that can access Bitcoin versus just the United States that could trade the NASDAQ, or just the United Kingdom can trade whatever it might be. So it's not restricted. So I hope this is helping some of you guys out. If it is, say yes in the chat so I know that you guys value this, or like the video because that definitely helps. Big A says, did y'all see Trump's disgraced economic guy, Stephen Moore, shilling some crypto coin? He says, creating on CNBC today. That is hilarious. So somebody said 14% down in 5 minutes. Once again, that 13.5 level is a very strong resistance. We want to be very careful, and we're waiting to see that daily close on the candle. And so somebody says, been using your signals and been making a lot of profits. Thank you so much. You're very welcome. Thank you for mentioning that. It helps to know that what we do on a daily basis helps and adds value to you guys. Mitch says, I was watching Sniper, learning all TA from yourself. Haha. Well, if you guys are part of the premium group, you haven't signed up for the course yet, it's under the premium education on the Discord. If you go here, this is all only for premium members, and you guys are able to access this course. There's tons of knowledge here. And just this first video alone, TPC platform overview, which is the one I went over in terms of where to invest and how to invest if you're long-term, short-term, medium-term, not just in crypto, but also applying to Forex and stocks. That's a gold video right there, because that's going to show you the platforms I've used over the last 10 years being in this market and what I've found been the most effective at successfully investing in this market. So somebody says, Brent, glad you're back. Thank you so much. Great Day says, I was searching for internet money in 2006 and gave up till someone told me he wants to pay by Bitcoin. You know, it's funny. I was reading this forum post from like 2010, and this guy was negotiating on the forum to buy Bitcoin. It was like 25 Bitcoin he was trying to sell for $30 on this forum. And a guy goes on his forum and is like, hey, I'll buy it for $15. And the guy says, could you at least meet me halfway at 20? And the guy goes and he responds back, and he says all these curse words. No, screw you, dude. He's like, go yourself. He's like, I'm not going to pay that much for the 25 Bitcoin. And I'm just laughing right now thinking about that, because the guy wasn't willing to pay $20 for 25 Bitcoin. He wasn't willing to meet somebody halfway for 25 Bitcoin. But look at what we see now. A beautiful, beautiful asset class doing its thing. And you know, this is really where I thrive the most. That's why I'm excited to get back on these live streams. You know, over the past year and a half, I've really focused in on making the Discord group something that could add tremendous value to somebody, you know, for a long time. And I think we've definitely done that now that we've added more and more analysts, BitMEX signals, crypto signals, Forex stock signals, airdrop signals. We're actually going to have a tax analyst coming soon that's going to be able to answer tax questions. We got a ton of amazing things coming, and I'm super excited to continue moving that needle forward. So Alan has a good question. What's your play on BNB? You holding any? Do you think it's smart to hold to the launch pad for the IEO? So Binance soon is going to launch a margin exchange, but at the same time, they're banning US customers on their main platform. Let's talk a little bit about that. Thank you for mentioning that, Alan. It's a very good topic. So understanding the fact that Binance is banning US customers towards its main platform is actually a good thing. And the reason it's good is because the US is a lot stricter than a lot of other countries, and the way that Binance runs just isn't in line with the US regulations that are typically enforced with any sort of financial processing company or anything in that manner that deals with finances or investments or any capital. And therefore, I believe that this is a very good move. What we'll most likely see is more stringent, KYC processes in this new Binance US exchange. There are probably going to be more stringent limits to what you can trade, how much you can trade, how much you can deposit, how much you can withdraw. And they may also not allow you to trade every single coin that you can typically trade on the normal Binance platform. And so in my opinion, those things are all in place to protect investors. I actually saw an article recently, which is very interesting. If you guys don't understand, the world of hedge funds, most hedge funds can only accept accredited investors. And accredited investor is an investor that makes over $250,000 a year for at least 2 years or has a $1 million plus net worth. And so what I read in this article is that the US is thinking about possibly making that a lot less strict and allowing more and more regular folks to invest in some of these volatile investments with higher risk because of what we're seeing, in my opinion, with a market like cryptocurrencies, where the government is kind of out of control at this point, and they just have to, they just have to put the fence around the box and make sure that it's safe and it's regulated, and that's all going to be positive because once again, the more regulations, the more confidence with institutions, and as soon as we see institutional money come into this market, it's going to make a noise. It's not just going to come in out of nowhere. The same way that $100 million institutional order took Bitcoin up 24+% in one day, and that launched this bull market, which now, if we look from that day to now, we've seen over 250% gains. We're going to see a lot more of that to come as more and more institutions gain confidence in this market. So Great Day says, don't worry about the ban. The opening for US, another exchange with less coins. There you go. We just went over that. And then the other thing I want to talk about Binance is as they start to release more and more features like margin trading, I still believe the BNB coin is going to be valued very high. If we pull up the Binance USDT chart, you can see we're still at these higher highs. So you're not necessarily losing much USD value holding BNB. But if you look at the Bitcoin chart, it is it's quite bad, as you can see, as we've seen very, very big downside here. But once again, if that second scenario, as we talked about, occurs where we see Bitcoin top out and consolidate, that's going to be the biggest opportunities for altcoins to start seeing major gains. And that's why we're going to be watching over 50 altcoins. We have a list of them to send out those signals for our premium members in our Discord group, which if you're not a part of it, the link is in the description below. We just launched our new course. If you guys are already a premium member, make sure to take that course because it's going to help you tremendously. And other than that, do we have any other questions before we wrap this live stream up? I do plan to start getting back more consistent with videos because we've finally completed a lot of the things with Traders Profit Club that we've been meaning to complete over the last year. And as the platform and the community matures, it gives me more time to go ahead and give you guys some of this valuable content. And so I'm super excited about that. If you guys are excited, like this video. I love providing you guys information and analysis on this market. I've been in it for 10 years. And for me, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And I cannot wait to see what happens in 5 years and 10 years when we see Bitcoin at very, very high highs. John says, Bitcoin dropped like a rock while on live chat. Absolutely. I would not be buying this dump right now. Once again, we posted that Bitcoin sell signal at around 12. So our signal was from 8,000 to 12,000, and all of our targets have been hit. So congratulations for all the members that took advantage of that. But at this point, this is a very major resistance at that $13,500 range, as we've shown you here in the past, acting as support. And therefore, we want to be very careful, knowing that all of these altcoins are at these perfect positions to see upside. I'd be very, very careful in this market right now. You really want to wait for a confirmation. If there's any time in the market that you want to wait for a confirmation before putting liquidity in it, it's right now. remember, in 2017, a lot of people lost money. If you were one of those people, say I in the chat. A lot of people lost money. Even though there's all this amazing stuff, people can still lose money. And the reason they lose money is because they make emotional decisions. Trading a market is 80% emotional, 10% fundamental, and 10% technical. So as long as you can get the emotional side correct, then the last two parts are pretty easy and simple if you have strong resources and good providers of information like our TPC premium group. And therefore, I highly don't recommend getting into this market right now. The two confirmations we're looking for right now is Bitcoin going to continue to see upside? And that's going to be that daily candle body close above 13.5. But the second scenario is, are we going to start to see altcoins pop as Bitcoin sees some small consolidation at these higher highs? And if that's the case, it could very much allow us to have a ton of altcoin opportunities for 10, 15, 20, 30, 50% gains over the next few days, if not weeks. And the cool thing is, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of these altcoins are in perfect setup for upside. So you can see this was a previous resistance and it's now support. That would be an entry point if you were a scalp trader, right? But once again, since this market's not Forex at $7 trillion, this is a $400 billion market. We don't want to just make those split-second decisions. We want confirmation. And so if we start to see a possible reversal here, this could potentially see a trade opportunity with BNB to take us 60, 70% up. And we'll have the opportunity to catch some of these altcoins at these lows, because it's not just BNB. If you pull up TRX, look at that. It's right at that support. This would be a perfect entry for a scalp long. And if we were to go to some other coins here, let's pull up ETH BTC, same exact scenario at these lower lows on the weekly, right? This is the time that we'll most likely see some sort of upside potential. So that second scenario can be a lot more likely than we actually think. For us to see Bitcoin consolidate and altcoins to start seeing upside is very, very possible, especially after this huge wick that just formed. But the confirmation is going to occur with that body candle close above 13.5. So that's what I'm watching for right now. And I hope you are too. Art, Alan, Lord, Thelonious, Alfonso, everybody's saying, you guys lost money during that. Well, you guys were obviously not part of our trading group if you guys lost money. You guys are the ones that need to join and stay up to date with that stuff, man. Let's see. Is this surge really founded on solid fundamentals, Joshua? 100%. You see all of these new companies that are starting to get into the digital currency marketplace. That's going to create a lot more potential liquidity for Bitcoin as we start to see more coins come out and people are wanting to liquidate their Libra Facebook coin for Bitcoin. We'll see more liquidity because of that. And once again, Facebook is one of the biggest companies in the world. So for them to open the doors for a digital wallet, I'm pretty sure they're not going to leave out Bitcoin in their digital wallet if Bitcoin is the one that pretty much created the digital wallets. Another fundamental aspect here to mention, Alfonso, is the daily transactions of Bitcoin per day, maintaining that 400,000 transaction a day per level versus only peaking at that during the 2017 high versus here where we're actually seeing stability. And that's actually kind of how we predicted Bitcoin was going to see this. You guys, if you keep up with our videos, we predicted this all the way down here. I told you guys this was most likely the bottom. And the reason was because we saw daily transactions at these peaks even before we saw Bitcoin go back into its bull run. So fundamentals would typically show you signs of what will happen in the technicals, right? Fundamentals are very important just as much as technicals. And so we're definitely seeing the fundamentals. We're definitely seeing the growth in this market. We're definitely seeing the regulations in this market. Cambridge Analytics, that's another fundamental reason. So, the thing with me is I'm not on the news sites looking at, Facebook's new coin. Okay, cool. You guys said that a year ago. Ripple just partnered with MoneyGram. Okay, cool. You said that a year ago. That's what most people are reading. I'm trying to find the actual fundamental reasons that this market could potentially see upside. And I think that we've covered the majority of them. Volume, institutions, big players and big companies coming into the niche. These are real and legitimate reasons that we'll see upside versus, I'm Ripple and I have a lot of money. Let me pay this press company to re-release an article from a partnership that I made a year ago. I'm just not fond of that as much as I am of, daily transactions per day, that's proof for me. Okay, Cambridge Analytics, $300 billion in managed assets, that's proof for me. So hope that answers your question, Alfonso. And Raider says CME makes sure the market does opposite of what the market is supposed to do. Well, I think that's why 90% of traders lose, is they're walking into a market that they're not prepared to walk into. And that's why you have to educate yourself. And I don't believe there's a better educational program, community, or course than the Traders Profit Club community. So the link is in the description below for that. I'm going to head back to these charts and send more signals out, as we may see some BitMEX signals here and shorts coming, but we have to be very careful at these highs. Once again, we're waiting for confirmation right now to determine whether or not we're going to see a Bitcoin consolidation and altcoin bull run, or we're going to see a continued Bitcoin upward momentum. If we do see continued Bitcoin upward momentum, that's going to be a whole different scenario. We're going to have to talk a little bit about where we'll start to see potential targets even beyond that $19,000 range. And that's going to be more in-depth fundamentals. But with any market going to the upside, there's always going to be corrections along the way. And once again, if we look at what happened previously when we moved beyond that EMA, we went over 80% above that EMA, and right now we are at those similar levels where we're way and above that EMA, about 55%. So we may have that potential to hit that 16 target and then see that drop. And you know what would be an ideal scenario? What would be a really ideal scenario is for us to maybe see a little bit of a bounce here, go to this next target, and then see the drop to find new support at 13.5. And if that's the case, this is going to be the range that will most likely consolidate as we see altcoins start to see their reversals and then eventually continued Bitcoin momentum to the upside. But the point is, I think the biggest question and the biggest thing we want to watch for right now is Bitcoin dominance going to continue to move up? And here's the last thing that I want you guys to watch for. So when you look at Bitcoin dominance, it peaked out at around 65% during that initial rally that we saw here. And so that's going to act as that resistance. I'm sorry, it was around 60%, 60.23. So that's going to act as that resistance. And so for us to be above that right now, if we can maintain above 60% dominance, that's a very, very likely sign that the altcoins are going to see the downside and Bitcoin is going to be the only one to see the upside. Because if you guys are holding any altcoins right now, I'm sure you're seeing your Bitcoin Satoshi value just drop down out of, like, it's just like crashing because we're seeing these altcoins bleed against Bitcoin, and there's a reason for that. And so that's why we're in high caution right now, waiting for those two confirmations. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys want more consistent videos, I want to do a 5-day-a-week schedule soon. If you guys want that, like the video. I'm hoping that we can get back to that. A lot of the analysts are helping out now with the Discord, so that's been a lot easier. And I think that I'm ready to start covering this asset class top down, because I just started advising a new company a week ago. It's going to be the 10th company that I've started working with. It's a blockchain ATM company that has over 4,000 blockchain ATMs all around the United States and expanding internationally. And so, it's really interesting to be in the back of the curtains with a lot of these companies. One of the companies I advise, Monarch, they're just launched their IEO. We're seeing a lot more IEOs, initial exchange offerings, versus ICOs right now with these companies that are trying to raise funds. And I think that has a lot to do with Binance's extreme success as an exchange. We're seeing a lot more of those trying to come about, especially with Binance banning the US. I think that there's still another opportunity for another major exchange to come out of nowhere. For those of you entrepreneurs out there that want to start an exchange, DM me on Discord. No, I'm just kidding. Frisky says, loving the TPC. Thanks, Naeem. You're very welcome. Brent says, looking forward to it. Matt says, what up, Naeem? Alfonso says, great vid. So here's one thing I want to talk about for those of you that are in our TPC group. During some of these times, the reason we've had so many successful BitMEX signals lately is because when we're in a strong uptrend, for example, it's not hard to set up these BitMEX signals and get these 7.5, 26% gains. You can see here 35% gains, 28% gains over and over again. And sometimes you can just use the same signal on BitMEX and just let it hit that entry, hit the target, take your profit, let it drop back down, let those short sellers get their shorts in, then re-enter, then go right back up. The one thing I will tell you is just trade with the trend, and that's the best thing you can do if you're trading BitMEX. If we're in an uptrend, trade the uptrend. If we're in a downtrend, don't trade the up, don't go long in a downtrend and don't go short in an uptrend. And so if you're trying to catch the top, you're going to be very, very, very unhappy, in my opinion, when you liquidate your full account, right? But if you're staying with the trend, then there's very little downside. The thing with BitMEX signals is you want to set those stops very low because those wicks can really get you out. But for those trading any accounts that are between $1,000 and $10,000, margin trading with leverage on BitMEX or MT4 with the Hugo's Way broker, it allows you to leverage your funds up to 500x. And that's where I see the majority of capital being made for those that have smaller accounts. For those that are trading over 100,000 in your accounts, I would say you should use more of a buy and hold strategy and reposition and rebalance your portfolio on a consistent basis. So what that would mean is if you're going to put in your long position here for Bitcoin, let's say it breaks 13.5, you decide to drop in dollar cost average another position in. Maybe you can, whether or not we consolidate here, you hold that position. Maybe you wait for that second target like 19 to hit before liquidating that, because when you have larger funds, you can make more capital without leverage and it's a lot less riskier. Or for me right now, I'm actually testing with an auto trader, and I'm not going to go into much, about that because a lot of people get skeptical and stuff, but I put my money where my mouth is. And so I'm working with this developer who's developed this AI auto trader for over 2 years. And that's where I'm putting the large capital, because when it feels that we're seeing these major downsides, it will automatically liquidate. And for me, that's, something I'd rather allow a robot to handle than for me to handle myself. And then focusing in more on, those leverage trades for smaller capital accounts to get those major gains with a lot less capital. And so that's really what I would focus on too. Let's see here. John says, thanks, Sam. Great content. Mark says, do you have a club for crypto only? I'm not interested in Forex and stocks. No, Forex and stocks are just bonuses. We have just as many, we have more crypto analysts than we do for Forex and stocks, but we also have a lot of So, the thing with TPC is we just throw in as many analysts as we can for each of these markets, and analysts that are only at 7 figures in their trading history. So you're only getting good trades for that market. And the thing is with markets, sometimes it's a good time to trade the crypto market, but it's not a good time to trade Forex. Sometimes it's not a good time to trade crypto, and it's a good time to trade Forex. And the reason we made this course is this course not only goes into how to properly trade cryptocurrencies as a long-term, short-term, or medium-term investor, but it also goes through the other markets as well as all of the platforms that you can utilize in order to get and take advantage of every single, whether or not that's something that you want to do. So Michael says, homie took off his glasses and put a blazer on, looking official, LOL. Do you guys like this shirt? Say yes in the chat if you like this shirt. It says crypto and chill. So next time you reach out to your girlfriend or your wife or your significant other, instead of saying Netflix and chill, you should say crypto and chill. Elevator up and skydive down, but this time we've got several backup parachutes. We're all very prepared for anything. I love it. Well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate and value each and every one of you. If there's any sort of feedback, recommendations, or improvements that you think we can make to the YouTube channel, to the Discord, to the premium group, to the course, send it over to me on Discord as a PM. I'd love to hear your feedback. We're always striving to make things better for you guys. We've been getting more and more members. We've gotten the most amount of members this year so far, this month alone. Just people signing up like crazy. So we're super glad to service you guys, and we're super excited to add more features. I just had a meeting with a crypto tax specialist, so we may be able to get a tax specialist on board on the Discord for those of you that have a lot of those tax questions, and for even additional services that you can negotiate with the expert as well. So I'm super excited to be the #1 educational platform for trading financial markets. And as we start to see the cryptocurrency market turn into $1 trillion market, just like Forex and just like stocks, we're going to be on the forefront of every single one of these coins, every single one of these investments. And I'm going to make sure to provide you guys the best quality content. And thank you all so much. And with that being said, until our next video, TPC family, I'm out. Naeem Al-Abeidi, exiting.